All right, so here we are on this world population data set that we have, where basically we list a bunch of variables for these 105 countries that are in the list. So it's a nice data set, and one of the categories they have here, or one of the bits of information they have, is life expectancy at birth for males. So I'm going to take this data and create a histogram from it. So I've highlighted the column now. I'm going to come home here and copy that. I'm going to drop it into a separate sheet just so it's not so cluttered. So there's the values, and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to sort these values from small to large. So we'll see why we want to do this. But so I'll click data and then sort from small to large. Now, Histogram has a tool in the data tab, the data analysis tool, to draw a histogram here. But if I let it do its own thing on its own, so let's do that actually. I'm going to quickly show you what that looks like. So I've already run it. I don't like how it comes out. So I'm going to select the input range. What you do here is you just highlight all these values, right? So you just click and highlight them, leaving the title out. And then they have this bin range. Right now it's empty. We're going to leave that empty. And I'll come back and explain why I want to use a bin range, but right now I'm not going to. Then the output range. So I'm just going to, again, click this and specify a rectangle. You can see I've already done this, but so maybe I specify this space where I want the output to turn up. And then I'm going to click chart output because I want to see the histogram. Otherwise, it won't give me a histogram. So I click OK, and this is the results I get. So first of all, you can see they have this weird choice of classes or categories. That's not great. So they have different bins. They have this more category. That isn't wonderful. I would rather specify these myself so I get the number I want, and also I get to define where the left endpoint and right endpoint for each rectangle or each class begins and ends. The other thing is, if you can see how the output turns out, they have all these spaces between the bars. That's not traditional. We want to remove those spaces. So if we just right-click any of these rectangles, we'll have an option to format the data, and then we can close this gap width that's here to 0. So we'll bring it all the way down to 0. And then you can see once that's done, it looks a lot more like a normal traditional histogram. So much better, but I'm still not happy with it. I want to make some corrections. Another issue here is that this label 76.13, that's actually referring to the right endpoint of this rectangle here for this class. And the way it's written, it looks like a midpoint. So I think maybe we should replace these labels with the midpoint themselves. So you can actually right-click on this, and you can change the axis. And you can change what actually goes there. So I would like to change the axis and put something else because, I don't really like it. The other option is you could just click on the tick marks like that, and that will move it over. So you could either use the midpoints or on the tick marks. I guess maybe just for time, we'll leave it on the tick marks. I think that's fine. Maybe that's the best way to do it. But you could also, again, add whatever labels you want by creating a little list of labels and highlighting it, and it'll swap these values out. But I like on the tick marks. That's a good choice. So we'll leave it there. All right, so we fixed one problem, but we still have this problem of it chose how many classes we were going to have, and ultimately we didn't have any say or control over that. So let's go ahead and fix that. The way we're going to fix this is I'm just going to delete this stuff that I had here before. That's gone now. And I'm going to instead come up with what class width I should use to have my desired number of classes. So let's play around with this a little bit because I'm not even sure what I would like to have actually as a desired number of classes. So I'm going to write class width here. I'm going to create a function for this. Now, the standard approach to finding the class width would be to say we need to divide the range by how many classes we want to have. Right? So we want to divide the range by how many classes. The range is just the max minus the min. This is why I sorted the data from small to large, because now I can see the maximum and minimum. If I click this, that's my max. If I come up to the formula bar and I say minus and then go and select the minimum, I now have the range. So there's my range. And I'll divide that by how many classes I want. I'm not really sure how many classes I want. As a rule of thumb, if you have a lot of data, you can afford to have more classes. If you have less data, you need to use less classes. But I have about 106 values. That's not a small amount of data, but I don't know. There are other considerations. Like, for example, if I'm going to have these classes or categories, how big do I want them to be? This is life expectancy, and it ranges from, 40s, which is very low in the modern world, up to 80, right? So, that's a pretty good spacing. Maybe if we looked at, well, how many are actually in this very low range of the 40s? There aren't too many, right? There aren't that many there. And so most of them are kind of in the 60s, 70s, and such. So maybe I want to, because that really is then a functional range of only about 20, right? If you talk about most of them being from 60 to 80. Maybe I want to have, I don't know, let's say 8 classes. Let's just see what that would look like. So I'll divide by 8. And now you can see that, each range is about a span of 5 years, right? And, I think expectancy terms, 5 years is a pretty good distance. Maybe I want that to be a little smaller though. So maybe I can make it, let's try 10 and see what we get when we do 10. And I think this is a little better, a class width of almost 4, so 3.77. Well, actually, probably just use 4 here. But, the 3.77, I think is good because, a 4-year span, that's a pretty meaningful difference, but it's not, it's not such a huge difference that you couldn't generally say, okay, those countries are about the same. I mean, if you felt like maybe you should distinguish countries based on like a 2-year difference, right? So if you said, well, one country that has a life expectancy of 76 is very different from one that has a life expectancy of 78. If you wanted to classify them as different, maybe you'd want to get your width down even smaller. But I think, 3 or 4 years is probably okay. If you wanted to go even to, say, 12, you could do that, So, but, then you're not really getting much of a difference. So I think 10 is a nice, good round number, 10 different groupings or 10 different classes. And then our class width should be about 4. We're going to round this up. Typically, it's a good idea to round it up. Sometimes you can use the number you get, but generally you have to round up. So let's now create our classes. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to think about, okay, where should I begin my first group at? Here, 42 is the lowest number. We could start right at 42 if we wanted. I think that's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and do that. And then from there, I'm going to add my width to this. And the way to do this nice and easy is to click the value. Then it'll appear here in the formula. And then you say plus 4, our width. And so now you have your first class, your second class started. And what I'm going to do to get the rest of them is just click and drag, right? So let's see how many I have here now. There's 10, right? 10 of them. So there's my 10 groups. And over here, I'm going to say equals. And what I'm going to do here is take this value and subtract 1 from it. Because I want to go right up to 46 and stop. Now I can go a little higher since our data has decimals. I can actually, instead of subtracting 1, I can subtract 0.1 instead. So let's change the formula here to 0.1, right? And this is just going to give me the kind of limit that bumps right up against here without overlapping, right? So now it's a class limit that's right up against there. Now, for the next one, in the upper limit category, I'm going to click equals. I'll take the value that I have here, and I'll add 4 to it again. So now I have the next upper limit. So I have my lower limits for my classes and my upper limits for my classes. In fact, for my classes here, I might want to merge and center here. So I'm just going to click this little button here. It'll merge and center. So now you can see my classes, lower limit, upper limit, right? And again, I'll drag this down until I have 10 of them. Okay, very good. So now I have my 10. And let's check to see if this is doing its job. If it's doing its job, the largest value in my data set, my maximum, should fall in this last class. If it doesn't, then I've done something wrong. Let's see if it works. So this is 79.9, basically 80. And sure enough, 80 falls nice in this last class, so I've done a good job. My classes cover everything from the smallest value to the largest value safely. Every data point has a home. There are 10 categories, and I've done my work nicely. Now, from here, I have options. I can do my histogram with this, but the problem is that then I wouldn't be using boundaries, and there would be these little tiny gaps between the rectangles. So what I want to do instead is come up with the boundaries. And same thing as before, let's merge and center here these two. So I'll have a lower boundary and an upper boundary. But how do you get the boundaries? Well, to get the boundaries, you basically have to do a simple calculation. And you can actually let Excel do this for you if you want. This will actually work. Okay, in order to get the boundaries, I'm going to create something here called the kernel. That's not an official name for this. I've just called it a kernel. I made that up. You don't have to call it that. But anyways, here's the calculation that I'm going to do to get this thing that's going to help us generate all the boundaries. I'm going to start a formula here, use parentheses, and I'm going to say this value here, this second lower limit, I'm going to subtract from that the upper limit of the first class. So I'm basically taking the upper limit from the first class and subtracting it from the lower limit of the second class. It's kind of a mouthful, but that's what I'm doing. And I get this difference of 0.1, right? I'm going to now divide that. So I'm going back into the formula. I'm going to divide it by 2. And this is going to give me my kernel. This value will generate all my boundaries. And here's how it's going to work. To get my lower boundaries, I'm going to take all these lower limits and I'm going to subtract the kernel. And I will click this and drag to do all the rest. It didn't work out, and the reason why is because I need to make sure that this kernel stays the same, because what it's doing now is it's basically going down with me. It's grabbing 42, subtracting the kernel, then it's trying to grab 46 and subtract whatever is here, but there's nothing there. So what I'm going to do to prevent that from happening is I'm going to put $ in front of this value, both here and here. And what this is going to do is it's going to fix that reference so that from now on, it does the job correctly. Okay, so there it is. I've got my lower boundaries. To get my upper boundaries, I'm going to take the kernel and add it to all the upper boundaries here. So I'm going to say equals the upper boundary plus, the upper limit, plus the kernel. And again, I'm going to need to put some $ here. So both before the 2 and before the J. And now we have that value. Drag it, and we finish off the set. And you'll notice if you've done it correctly that the boundaries are a little bit wider on both ends, right? So the 78, we're going a little bit below 78 and a little bit above the upper limit of 81.95. And essentially what we're doing is we're kind of finding the number right in the middle between these two values, right? So between 77.9 and 78, we have 77.95, and that's the value right in the middle. Okay, now we have these boundaries. What's the point of the boundaries again? Well, it's so that these values are no longer spaced apart, right? They're the same. Because they're the same, there'll be no spaces in our rectangles. Now, once you have this set, I'm just going to make it look nice with a border around it. I can then use the boundaries specifically to do my histogram. Okay, so let's go back and run the histogram one more time. So I'll click the Data tab, I go to Data Analysis, click Histogram again. The input range is still the same, it's still there, so we're good with that. The bin range now, though, this is the part that's different. I'm going to highlight all these upper limits, or upper boundaries, I should say. The upper boundaries, once they're highlighted, they will be my new tick mark endpoints, right? Everything else should be good. I'll change the output range. Maybe I'll put it here and just make a little drawing beneath. Make sure chart output is selected, click OK. And there we go. So let me move that histogram a little bit. Actually, let's make it a little bigger so we can see it. So we're going to go through that same sequence. I'm not happy with the spaces, so I'm going to click Format the Data Series. I'm going to lower the gap width to 0. Now I have my histogram. I also don't like this here, this more stuff. See how they did the bins, but then they added more? There's nothing in the more because obviously, we already set up all our data to fall into all our classes. So I'm just going to delete this. I'm able to just delete it. So I'll say delete and then shift cells up Okay, so now it's no longer there in my histogram, so much better. Now I have this image that has a nice, picture to it like I want. And then the only other thing I'm not happy with is these labels. I don't like how these labels are set up, so I'll click on the tick marks. Much better. Now I think it represents a pretty decent histogram for that data set. And you can see that the data set looks like it might be left skewed, right? So there's a sort of this extreme tail on the left.